I'm delighted to welcome you all to the Music in Me webinar, a special event, very special event brought to you by Style and Eagle. We are thrilled to have a remarkable lineup today, starting with our esteemed co-founder of the Eagle Foundation, the pillar, Mr. Kotalengo and Miss Rupa, whose vision and support have made this program possible. A special welcome to our chief guest, Mr. Clarence Jey. We all know him, a Grammy-credited record producer and songwriter whose extraordinary work has left a global mark on the music industry. We are also joined by Style Irvine head Ms. Divya, whose leadership continues to inspire our community along with our dedicated style volunteers who are all here today to volunteer. And of course, a big thank you to all our attendees for being here in the Sunday afternoon. Today's session promises to be both insightful and inspiring. And our moderator, Dia, a style volunteer, she's also a style volunteer, will soon take us through the agenda for the evening. Towards the end of the webinar, we'll have a Q&A where you're going to type your questions. All the attendees can type your questions on the chat box, and Dia will present it to Mr. Clarence Jey. Please note that you can type in the chat box only. Thank you once again for joining today. Now, let's get started, Dia. Over to you. Go ahead, babe.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today for the Music in Me webinar. To give you a brief overview of today's program, we'll start off with the Tirukkural, then a speech from Eagle Foundation, and then leading up to our much anticipated chief guest, Mr. Clarence Jey's presentation. After that, we'll dive into the Q&A session where we'll be reading any questions that you have posted throughout the presentation in the chat. And after that, we'll end with the Eagle competition results. To start off on an inspiring note, I'd like to invite Ashwata to share a meaningful Tirukkural with us. Ashwata, over to you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ashwata. So this is the Kural I have today. தெய்வத்தான் ஆகாது எனினும் முயற்சிதன் மெய் வெறுத்த கூலிதனம். தமிழோட மீனிங் என்னன்னா, கடவுளே என்று கூவி அழைப்பதால் நடக்காத காரியம் ஒவ்வொரு முயற்சியுடன் உழைக்கும் போது அந்த உழைப்பு கேற்ற வெற்றியை தரும். இங்கிலீஷ்லோட இதோட மீனிங் என்னன்னா, through fate or divine should make your labor vain. Effort, its labor sure reward will gain. நான் ஏன் இந்த குரல் சூஸ் பண்ணேன்னா, எஃபர்ட் இல்லாம நீங்க கடவுள்கிட்ட வேண்டிக்கிட்டே இருந்தீங்கன்னா அது நடக்காது. நீங்க எஃபோர்ட் போட்டா மட்டும்தான் அந்த காரியம் நடக்கும். Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ashwata, for that beautiful Tirukkural. It really helped inspire me for this presentation. Next, I'd like to invite Mr. Hari to talk about the Eagle Foundation and its work.
Thank you, Dia. Good to be with you all this fine Sunday afternoon. Hopefully you all had a chance to get lunch before this session. So quick overview on Eagle. Eagle is a Tamil word that means giving. We have over 100 volunteers that donate their time and other skills to support a few programs that we have. We have a translation program where we translate short stories and other artifacts from English to Tamil, Tamil to English. One platform that we work on routinely is Story Weaver, where we have short stories that are being translated on a regular basis. Second program is a spoken English program. We are using teen volunteers from the US, connect them with kids in rural South India, where English, happens to be a barrier. So we are trying to teach them foundational English skills so they can remove that as a barrier, remove English as a language barrier, and even open them to other opportunities outside of high school, college, what majors, and all that. More recently, we are piloting a program called peer-to-peer networking, where some of these students that appear to be promising, we are making laptops available to them and connect them directly on a one-on-one setting with some students and adult volunteers here, expose them to any opportunities outside of what they have out there, teach them more about college majors and whatnot. We're piloting that. So far, it's been very successful. Those are the three programs. Again, like I said, we have over 100 volunteers. We spend over 1,000 hours each year supporting all these programs. Thank you, Dia.
Thank you, Mr. Hari, for introducing the Edo Foundation to us. Now, I'd like to invite Ms. Divya, the head of the Style Irvine team, to share more about what STYLE stands for and its program and mission. Over to you, Ms. Divya.
Thank you, Dia, for this. Good afternoon, everyone. As everybody who spoke before me said, this is a wonderful Sunday afternoon, and we are so excited to have a music person who's going to inspire us and share his stories. So, to give a brief about STYLE, it's an acronym for SoCal Tamil Youth Leadership and Entrepreneurship. Mrs. Karthika is the president for the overall STYLE program. We have been working since 2018, and since its inception, STYLE has been very successful in creating various volunteering opportunities, partnering with Eagle Foundation, founded by Mrs. Rupa and Mr. Kotlango. With their guidance and support, we are creating a lot of volunteering opportunities for our teens in middle school, high school, and even college-going kids. As Mr. Hari mentioned, we are also part of the translation team. We started with one team, and today we have flourished into 5 teams. And we have a lot of youth teen volunteers who are the success for this great program. And we have translated over 1,000 stories from the Storyweaver website, which is being published in the name of the kids, and that is an exciting part for them, and it is being used by many people in India. And also we also create a lot of career opportunities for our teens and volunteers by bringing in specialists from various fields. Like today we have Mr. Clarence for music. We bring in specialists from various fields to introduce the career opportunities that are available for our kids, so that they get an insight and they can choose their career path. Also, we try to create more leadership roles, public speaking, and whatnot. We do a lot. So also, some of the notable programs that have been done in the past are with Eagle Foundation support. We have translated a lot of Khan Academy's science and math materials in Tamil, so that the kids in India can get benefited out of it. And also, we are also conducting spoken English along with Eagle with our student volunteers, which gives a good connection between our kids in the US learn Tamil, and the kids in India learn English. So it's a mutual give and take. So we are being very successful. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Rupa and Mr. Leon sir for giving us this opportunity. Thank you, Dia. Hope we all have a good time. Thank you. Over to you, Dia.
Thank you, Ms. Divya, for that run-through of STYLE. I'm sure many students are eager to join. Next, I'd like to invite Vasan, who will introduce our chief guest, the accomplished record producer and songwriter, Mr. Clarence Jey. Over to you, Vasan.
Yeah, thanks for passing it to me, Dia. I hope everyone is having a good day, and without further ado, I'll start introducing. So, Clarence Jey is a Tamil record producer and songwriter born in Jaffna, Sri Lanka, and currently he lives in the US. He has a lot of achievements under his belt, such as making songs that have gotten onto the Billboard Hot 100, a Grammy-winning record, and he has also composed music for many Emmy-nominated TV shows. One of the most popular songs Clarence Jey has done was the song Friday with Rebecca Black, which got onto the Billboard 100. He also composed music and wrote songs for television shows including Lego City Adventures, Common Law, America's Got Talent, Randy Jackson Presents America's Best Dance Crew, and The Newsroom. He also composed music for a film Love, and has also produced a song called Wasted that ended up becoming number 3 on the Billboard Reggae Album Chart. I invite everyone to listen to Mr. Jey's inspirational journey and all the things he's achieved along the way. He's a very talented musician and an example of how you can do whatever you want to in life with talent and ambition. So let him be an inspiration to all and an example of what he can of what dedication can help you do in life. And without further ado, everyone, please welcome Mr. Clarence Jey.
Thank you, Vasan, for those very kind words. I appreciate it. Thank you. You all can hear me, right? Thumbs up? Okay, excellent. I appreciate Ethel and Style for having me, obviously, Leon family and everyone else here. I appreciate you guys as well. So, I have like a bit of a presentation thing happening as well, but before that, I just wanted to maybe do a couple of minutes on the conversation about sort of why we are here. And it's it's about a little bit about me, but it's really about you all, and so make it a more of a conversation, if that makes sense. And my I guess I'm taking it as a job today to sort of enlighten folks here in terms of I've had a journey, and I'll explain that, but it's also about where I am in terms of the music business, and explain to you all how the industry and a little bit of the summary of the industry and the music business and how it sort of works, and also about if you have an artistic inclination in any kind, to sort of give you a little bit of a motivation, and if not, also to open your heart towards that as well, and never sort of close that. So that's sort of my overall picture of things, and I know time's sort of short, so I want to get through the serious parts first, and then we'll sort of have a little bit of fun towards the end. How's that? Is that good? Awesome. Okay, good. All right. So if you don't mind, Mr. Logesh, could you please put the first page up for me, and I'll sort of have a okay, there we are.
Please let me know if you
Yes,
see
sir.
the suggestion. Yes.
Yeah, that's great. So okay, so everyone can see this, yes? Okay. And all right, so what it is basically, I sort of, I was told to come up with the title or whatever, and I sort of came up with this idea of the music in me, and it's really about the music in you. Okay, and music in me is only one person, but there's music in all of us, right? And we all know that when we listen to some sort of music out there, and there's a certain part of a certain, maybe it's a song, it's a certain word, it's a melody, it's a tune, it's an instrument that really hits us home, right? Like at a certain point, and then maybe we may hear it in 2 years after that, and it still stays in us, just like sort of maybe like a perfume or something. It just sort of stays in us, and it probably means it made an emotional reaction within us. Okay, and so it's really, my conversation is about the power of that today, and understanding a little bit of the business aspects as well, because I think a lot of folks, at least what I'm learning, is a lot of folks are probably don't understand, or haven't had a chance to understand the scope of the business and the industry that is music. Okay, besides the artist, and we see singers out there and people touring and playing bands and things like that, there's a whole other world of business and industry that's out there. And I think it may be cool. It may be cool for you all to sort of understand a little bit about that as well. So the first page really is, I got these two quotes from one of my favorite music producers or record producers. And when I say record producers in India, I think we term it as music director, right? So in the US, we call that record producer. Okay. And basically someone who puts the whole thing together, and yes, has a musical ability, but is in charge of seeing the whole thing through, and obviously works in the studio and puts the music together. And so it's a bit of a process, and also it's the person who's actually really in charge of the whole delivery of the song per se. Okay, so if it's a film, a sequence of songs. If it's an album, X amount of songs. So one of my favorites is Quincy Jones, who actually produced Michael Jackson's biggest album, Thriller. So I've been a fan of him for a while. So, his first quote that I found was, you have to know that your real home is within. Okay, and we can have a conversation about this later. But to my understanding, it is really about it's the heart, and if your heart is happy, everything is good. And that meant a lot for me reading that a while ago when I was sort of navigating my way through to figure out, am I happy? Am I happy doing what I love? Am I we're here for a finite time period. So it was more about, am I maximizing my capabilities within this finite time period? And so for me, that hit home. And the other was really, which I could relate to as well, was about I never cared about the money or the fame, and I still don't. But then it sort of comes when you work hard and you put yourself out there, and you sort of dream big. And even if you achieve 1/10 of it, I felt that it's the real home that's happy. And luckily, I've managed to navigate through for over 20 years in the music industry and the business as well. And in saying that, can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Okay, so today's basic topics are basically a little bit about me, my career journey, and then a summary of the music industry / business. There are two different words, and I wanted to explain those and what those mean, and so that you all understand the scope of things and where one could be, even if there's a career that's being taken besides, say, wanting to be a singer or a musician or whatever. There is a whole other scope of things that happen within the business that actually make things move. Then and that obviously leads to career tips, and a little bit about the arts part, and obviously why the heartbeats matter. And we can go through that a little bit later. So let's keep moving forward. I know the time is sort of limited today, so let's go to the next one. So a little bit about me. I was born in, as Vasan mentioned, I was born in Jaffna, Sri Lanka, which is the northern part, closer to South India. So all of us are cousins here in some capacity. And so Sri Lanka had, as you probably may know, went through a civil war, and we were victims of that at one point. And so my mom happened to be a piano. She had actually done her piano qualifications. It was called Trinity College of London that they had examinations for in Sri Lanka. And so she had done it growing up. And so I was very lucky to be sort of surrounded by that, by mom, who really forced me to learn piano. And it was not really as a career because we never looked at it that way. It was more as you have to do something that's extracurricular. And besides studying and doing well at school, or try to do well at school, it was more about you do some sports, you do this, you do that, you do a few things, and whatever stuck was sort of, you went a little bit further with it as an extracurricular thing. So I started learning piano sort of when I was 5, and we did it for like 5 years, and then the war broke out, and overnight our lives changed. We lost our house. And we became technically refugees in the real sense. Lost everything pretty much, and our pets. We lost all that stuff, and so life changed, and that happens. That could happen to anyone, and it's what it is. It's part of life. But then we somehow navigated through the war, and my folks and they decided to move to Australia. We had some family there, so it took a couple of years to get there. But when we did, life started pretty much ground zero. We didn't have any music instruments or anything. So for me, it was a void of no music. And it's what it was. So I had to go to school, and our parents, as I think most of us can relate, it was all about getting good marks and trying to do well, and justify if we don't do well, and figure it out, and then also they work very hard, so they could provide us with some good schooling like most parents here would and do, and in certain instances for math, science, we were getting private tuitions and things like that. So because parents were focused on, hey, you need to do one of these degrees. So that was pretty much the career that was written in a way. However, sort of during high school, a few of my friends, we got together and we decided to sort of play around on a keyboard, and we accidentally wrote a song. And so we all got excited. I think I was more excited than most of them. And I was like, what do we do with this now? And so we found out that there's this thing called a recording studio. So, and this is pre-Google in a way. So it was about local phone calls. You just pick up the phone and you call people, or your home phone, landline, whatever you call people, figure it out. And we ended up going to a studio, saved some money, all of us, and we decided to record a song. And during that time, I was just so happy. It just felt so right. But I was in school, so it was a problem in terms of anything else but fun, and that was it. And so we saved it, and we got it. We had a great moment, and then we actually managed to get it on local radio. For some reason, some guy knew some local radio DJ, and we basically just bugged him until they played it, right? And so that was a little light for me as to persistence, sort of almost diving into something of the unknown, and not fearing too much, not sort of looking at it even as a risk. It's just you just sort of do it, and you trust your heart. And however, getting to pretty much high school and senior, it was like, okay, study time, and I just like, okay, let's just grind it out and see what happens. And then as soon as I got into a degree of doing engineering, and it was civil and computing, and I was like, okay, let me just do this, but let me just maybe figure out a way to record more songs, things like that, play. So while in college, there were a lot of guys who actually played music. So we would figure out bands, start our own band. Then I'll have another little band on the side doing something else. Then I realized I actually like writing songs. So I decided to write songs like almost regularly, like every other day I would write a song. And I didn't know it was good or bad. I just wrote it and just kept at it while getting through college. And then I realized that while playing, with bands, okay, there's a discipline that comes with it. There's a team effort that comes with it. So all those sort of were instilled in terms of how to navigate through a particular sort of situation where, okay, you are with people. It's like really a project because you have to deliver. So you have to practice, you got to work it together, and then you have to deliver to an audience who could actually not like you at all. So, and then it's a matter of resilience. You put up with it and say, okay, it doesn't matter. Let me just do it again next week. And just kept at it. And then at a certain point, I had to ask myself, do I want to actually, once I graduate, do I want to pursue engineering or actually just dive in and go for music? So I spoke to my parents. We had a serious conversation. It was rough. It was tough. But I cut a deal. I said, listen, when I graduate, I would like to pursue music full time. And they weren't cool at all. Almost, things hit the roof. And but I said, look, here's your degree and here's what it is. And I'd like to follow it. And I said, I actually need your help for the next couple of years. And because I don't really know much about it, but I was very honest about it. And they were cool. They said, well, obviously they cared for us. And I as a parent, now I understand that it was the fact that, parents want their kids to be secure, safe and secure, right? Healthy, obviously, safe, secure. So I see that because they didn't experience what I was going through in terms of, I want to pursue something that's artistic or that I'm something passionate about. So I had to explain that, and we had to find a middle ground. But it was the best decision that I had made for myself, and it was actually the best decision that, looking back at it, they made as well for me and for themselves, because now they're the most happiest, and things like that. So, for me, it took a little bit of resilience in terms of wanting to do what I want, maybe stubborn, and also actually being ignorant and maybe a little dumb about the whole thing. And that was probably my benefit, because I didn't overanalyze and overcalculate what I wanted. And because of that, the fear didn't exist probably as much. And just it was a matter of going for it and just not stopping, and I was prepared to just, whatever it took, if it meant that I need to go overseas, whatever. So it was, I would say the key word was determination, right? And then while in Australia, I didn't understand the business as much, the music business. And someone asked me, so what do you charge, to produce a record? And I actually didn't know how to answer that. And then I said, look, what do you want to pay? And then they said, well, how about this? And I said, well, how about, a lot lesser? And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And so we kind of made a deal, and I actually had my first, it was a EP, meaning like 5 or 6 songs, which I had few pieces of equipment for, and I actually delivered, and they loved it. And then they were like, well, I want to do more songs with you. And then the word started getting around that I deliver, I'm professional, I know what I'm doing, I know my music, things like that. And then the work started coming through. And at that point, I had sort of stopped going with the band thing and actually decided to commit myself to, this is what I want to do. I want to be a record producer. I want to be a songwriter. And just started getting focused more on that, and sort of understanding what it took, looking up to different folks who had been successful, Quincy Jones being one of them, and trying to navigate my career based on that. Fast forward, someone's asked me a question, but I'll get back to you, okay? Some cool questions there. And then in early 2000s, I wrote a song on a TV show, in a Nickelodeon TV show that we got the job in Australia for, and then basically that opened the doors for me to move to the US, and then I co-wrote it. It was a great theme song for a for a TV show, and that opened a lot of doors. And then fast forward, moved to LA, and then grinded it out for about 15 years, and then moved to Nashville, and here I am with y'all. So let's go to the next page, if that's okay. So my career journey, I think I've touched on a few things, but I'll just go through a few things. And I know Vasan mentioned a few things here as well. For me, piano was my primary instrument. So if someone's pursuing music, I would suggest, if you're singing, that's your voice, that is an instrument. If you're rapping, things like that, that's your instrument. However, learn an instrument that involves physical coordination of your hands and then your ears, right? So I would recommend it if you get a chance to, grab a guitar, grab a $100 guitar, get it from your local guitar center or whatever it is, and then tune it and figure out your ear and how that ear works, okay? And don't be afraid to play wrong notes, because if your brain knows it's wrong, then you know what's right. Right, so always sort of figure your way out, and then there's plenty of online sort of lessons and things like that you could actually follow as well. Okay, so I would suggest that having a basic understanding of an instrument is actually a good thing, and then if you pursue it further, then obviously you will know where to go. And for those who are who have friends who are doing music as well, start a band. And then yes, involves commitment, but you also learn a lot by teamwork. You learn to adapt to the other people in terms of music. Someone might be way better, someone may not. So you actually improve, you work harder to get to their level. Sometimes they'll teach you. So it's a team effort, okay? So I recommend that. And then obviously, in my case, I had to make a career decision after college. And then after moving to the US, I set myself on taking a very business approach as well to the music industry that I was in. So I decided to become a little more independent in terms of starting my company, and then having basically a company that produced songs, wrote and produced songs pretty much every day. And so we had artists almost in LA, we had artists almost like lining up to pick up songs, basically have them go to a studio, we'll write songs, produce, and then also do even video clips, things like that, music videos to enhance that at the time. And then that leads to my breakout with Friday, Viral Song Friday. And I got some great questions, but I'll answer all those, okay? So Viral Hit Friday, I felt that we changed this landscape in a lot of ways for a lot of independent artists, and to flatten. My goal was to actually flatten the playing field a little, as much as I could, for people who are up and coming, so that you could do a song from home, you could do a TikTok even, right? You could do a Instagram post, whatever. That's creative. And it could be you here, or it could be like some kid in India or even Africa who has access to something, a phone, and they could create a dance, and that is so unique, that is powerful, and they could monetize out of it. And for me, that was it was always has been a goal, and it always will be a goal, because I feel that then it's that democratization of arts, so that we can actually control our own careers, and we can actually make a living out of our own, because that way we empower each other, independently. So I felt that Friday helped facilitate that, and I still hear from people who actually sort of say, "Hey man, thank you so much. It sort of gave me the courage to do whatever I wanted to do and pick up a phone and record and put it up." I said, "How many hits do you get now?" I go, "Thousands." "Okay, fantastic." So it worked. It had an effect, and I was very proud of that. Fast forward, I'm also in the Recording Academy. Another word is Grammy. So I'm a voting member, and I also advocate. I'm in the advocacy program, which means that I meet with sort of politicians and things like that to advocate for better equity, fairness for artists and creators, especially in terms of royalties and things like that. So if it's okay, next page, please. So today's thing is going to be history, a little bit of a history, the music industry, music business, to where the industry is at today. And I'm going to sort of make it a little holistic if possible, because I know time isn't on our hands. But history basically means that, I'm not sure if anyone understands the business itself, but in the music world, who knows the word gramophone or phonograph? Excellent. Okay, so do you know who invented it? Okay, Edison. Thomas Alva Edison invented it. Okay, basically it could read waves of sound. Okay, and you can play it back. So since that was invented, what it is it became a medium by which someone could play something that's already recorded. Okay, the goal was to have lots of these things that actually this machine would play, and these things were the songs and the music. So that the business was, you could sell these gramophones, okay, and then the music would sell with it. So you could sell even more gramophones, okay. Now you translate that to today, it's the same thing, okay. We have an iPhone in front of us, and we have all the apps, okay. So if you take all the apps away, the iPhone's pretty much vacant, right? So it's the same thought process, okay. So that's pretty much where it started, and then it became an industry where the artists were signed to a record company, and they were say, okay, well, let's just put songs together, so let's make a deal with each other. And then it sort of evolved over the sort of last over 100 years, okay. And that's the business of a quick summary of the history itself. And then it became a global business, okay. And the record labels were formed, artists were signed to labels, and then the industry started growing, okay. And all because basically they wanted to sell products that would actually enhance this product called the gramophone or the phonograph, okay. And that's just a quick summary of that. And then obviously the sound was tied to the film when the film industry took off, as you probably know. Now let's flip to the next one, if it's okay, Lokesh. Thank you. All right. So there are two things that I mentioned to you. One's the music industry, and which is basically, it's like, as it says, the ecosystem, it's in surrounding the music creation, meaning it's basically, if you're a musician, your immediate thing is the music industry, okay. If you're an artist, it's the immediate thing is the music industry, okay. So that involves, artists meaning recording. So you go to a studio, you're in the industry. You're a musician, you're a session musician, meaning you go and play for others, you're in the industry. You're a rapper, you're in music industry, okay. And then there's parts of the music technology. And then in the music business itself is the overall scope, okay, the bigger strategy, the legal aspects, the financial aspects, the accounting aspects, and the rights, meaning like copyrights and the publishing. So it's basically the bigger picture from above. It's the music business itself, okay. So as an artist, as you can see, yes, the immediate thing is, yeah, you're assigned to, or you work with the music industry as an immediate as you grow, okay? But at a certain point, you actually tie into the music business itself. So you could, as an artist, be working with a certain lawyer, okay? Or you can work with a music publisher, okay? Or you might say, you know what, I don't want to be an artist. I love music, and I love the industry and the business, so I want to become an entertainment attorney, okay? So, or you might say, you know what, I want to work in accounting at Warner Music. So there is the other aspects of the business as well. It's just not just the song or the creating part or performing part, okay? There's a lot of scope in a lot of aspects, and then also they tie in with each other as well, okay? And there's a lot of, it can be a lot of fun. Obviously, it's a I wouldn't say a tough business, but it's a challenging business overall as the landscape evolves, okay? And with AI coming in as well, it's a challenging business. But as long as we have ears, you know, we need entertainment. We need visually also, we need that. So it's not going to go away. It's just going to be constantly evolving. And it's a matter of figuring out where our place is within that, okay? And because it's too big of a business for it to just fall apart. And it's also tied in with others, okay? Car stereos, okay, car stereos won't exist because no music, right? So it's all tied in. Speaker, the whole Atmos system is tied in with that. So there is a lot of stuff that is actually built in terms of the music business itself, that the music as a concept will continue to evolve, and we just have to just trust that it actually will go through, and it does, okay? In saying that, let's quickly move to the next one. I know time's, again, a little short. This is a summary of what I was telling y'all, okay? And in the middle, it says job roles. But if you look at each sort of corner or the quadrant, basically, on the top left, the yellow is the performance aspects, okay? So there is those roles, okay? Then on the media aspects, okay? Then in the bottom, there is the learning aspects, okay? And also and also music, as we probably know, it actually is, it's therapeutic as well. There's a lot of studies that's going on lately as well in terms of that. So there's a lot of scope in that area as well. And in terms of the recording aspects, that's where I come in as a producer / musician, studio person, all that stuff. That's my thing. And then on the other top green area, it's how the artists are managed, okay, and how that's put together. And basically, if an artist comes to me and gets a song, there's the high chance they will actually go to the one above me, which is the green, and get tied in with them in terms of having the song / performance out there, okay. And then that would be tied into the yellow part in terms of, okay, now we need to get a live sound person because they're performing, okay. We need to get the session musicians involved because they're performing a live show, they're touring, okay. And then as part of the tour, you go to the radio stations and you do the interviews, okay, and you do TV networks and you do the interviews. So it's sort of really tied in. That's the sort of the general ecosystem of things, okay. And I'm more than happy to provide this PDF. I mean, this PowerPoint. If y'all want, I'll convert it to PDF and send it to you all too. So in saying that, let's move to the next one. Yep. And then again, career paths in the music business itself. There is the rights, meaning really the intellectual property aspects. Okay. The live performance aspects, which is when you go, say, for example, you go to a Taylor Swift concert or whoever it is, okay, and that's that aspects of things, okay, and then the fans aspects of things in terms of how the whole thing works. And it could be like an influencer on the outside, okay, who actually all they do is just do videos about this artist, okay, and they're actually monetizing though, okay, on certain social media platforms just by doing that, or just by doing comparisons, just by doing fun videos, things like that, okay. And then all that leads to basically the accounting aspects, the the legal aspects, and as part of the management aspects as well. So this is I hope it gives you an idea as to the scope of the business and the industry that we're in, okay. Let's move to the next one, please. And so this is my summary here, okay. Anyone know what 29,000? Why I put that number down? It's 80 years. Roughly, humans live around that long. Okay, so for me, I sort of figured that part out in terms of, man, every day matters. Every second matters. So let's make every second matter, right? And every word matter too, if possible, right? So for me, it was okay. We have a finite time, so if it means that it's going to keep us happy, but more importantly, it's going to empower someone else, and if it's going to lift our society in some way, it's worth it. Okay, and naturally, the money would follow. Money always does if we work hard. I believe that, and if we set our goals right and don't get too distracted. So that leads me to the idea of finding your passion, right? And it may not be music, but it might be arts in some way, like it might be digital stuff that you do, but it might not be in the arts field at all. But my point is being passionate about something, because then it doesn't feel like work. Okay, and so for me, that's been so fulfilling, knowing that I have to stick to deadlines and things like that. But when I'm working, I don't feel like I'm working, because I just get it done, and it doesn't feel like. And I could go like 16, 17 hours straight in the studio and not even maybe have a bite to eat, knowing that I don't even think that way, because you just do it. So because I'm so into what I do, and then the idea being cultivating the mindset of that, right? And so point being, follow your heart, with a steady mind. So don't get distracted, don't get too emotional into things. Okay, so follow your heart, but keep your mind steady about your decision making, and rational thinking about things like that, right? Someone asked me, about the creative part and the how one actually, when we grow up, we all listen to some music at some point, learn something, and you know what? This is exciting, right? This is so cool. But we close our doors as we get older, as adults. And my request to everyone is, you may go into a path of medicine or whatever you do, right? Don't close that door towards art. So leave that little door open, okay? And one day you may say, you know what? Oh man, I want to try this out. I'm in my 40s. So what? Go play something. Get a piano, play something. Okay? It's okay to do that, right? So my point is, don't close that door, because it is very fulfilling. Okay? The next is practice, play, and persevere, which is my thing. I practice every day. Even to date, I practice on piano, practice guitar, at least put in 30 minutes a day, which is all you need. Even if you start off with if you're playing an instrument, maybe start off every other day and then bring it to one day, and do your scales and try and play something. Okay, and challenge yourself and jam with friends, as I mentioned to you all. And then someone asked me about competitions. Join competitions, because it keeps it sort of, in my mind at least, it sort of shows that, hey, I know where I'm at. Okay, let's be realistic. Let's not be dreamers here. Let's be realistic, and let's work towards improving myself. Okay, or sometimes the reality is that, you know what, this is not meant for me. Okay, for me, I had to make that decision in terms of bands versus studio. Okay, so band thing is not meant for me. This is not for me. Okay, I had to commit to that. And then, I would say, just like any other job, getting interns, becoming an intern, that's the best way to move up. Okay, say, you know what, don't pay me anything, but I'll be there like 10 minutes before starting work. 20, no problem, and I'll be the last person to leave. Okay, why? Because that hustle, someone else will recognize that in you, and then they will pull you up because they've done the same thing to get there. Okay, that's the business we're in. Okay, you could go work in a record label, be disciplined, do your job really well. Don't ask for money initially. That's my recommendation. Why? Because the money will follow once you prove yourself. Okay, and once you prove that you're actually even better than they thought you were, then the ball's in your court. Okay. So remember that too, right? And as I mentioned to you, music is therapy. So even if it's not a career option, trust that at some point music will heal, has healing qualities, and it will heal people, whether it's through emotional stuff that one goes through, whether it's a breakup or whether it's love or whatever, or the other aspects of actually health related stuff. And in saying that, just trust the music in you. Yeah. I hope I didn't go over. I was trying to condense as much as possible.
No, you did good. Don't worry.
Okay.
So would you like to go over the rest of the questions right
Yes.
now?
Yes, absolutely. There's a few here, so I'll do my best to. Okay, Kartika. No, Dia Ramesh. To anyone who's okay. So Kartika, Mr. J, what advice would you give young musicians or songwriters looking to break into the music industry? What should they focus on to stand out? Skill, 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 skill. Now you said songwriters or musicians. So if you're a musician, okay, that doesn't mean you're a songwriter. And if you're a songwriter, sometimes it doesn't necessarily mean you're a great musician. Okay, so I want you all to remember that. Okay, so you could be the greatest musician, but you wouldn't know how to write a great song. But that's okay. That's okay, right? So to be a young musician, best thing, grab an instrument that you're passionate about that actually even fits your body. Sometimes it's like a piano may not fit your body, but a smaller guitar might. Okay, grab that and practice. These days, everyone's lucky because we have YouTube and we have like so much social media that we can actually pick up pointers from. Okay, so go find a lesson that is actually serious, that has great reviews, and trust that, and then stick to one type of lesson, maybe one teacher. Okay, that's the best way. And if you find someone local, obviously go to have your parents figure out something with the teacher or whatever, and commit to that. Okay, and if the teacher doesn't feel right for you, trust your instincts and go to another one. Okay, so and over the time you will figure out what's best for you. Okay, and there is no sort of one straight path to success in the business or industry or being a musician, because you sort of navigate a lot. Okay, if there was one equation, I will tell you all, but there isn't. Okay, which makes it a lot of fun as you navigate through, because one teacher might teach in a certain way and the other teacher might teach in a certain way. But find a teacher or get online lessons and then practice. Okay, for songwriters, it's a whole other thing. You have to, in my case, I could say that the best way that I figured out was I just got song lyrics and song chords and just studied them like anything every day. Old songs that were big songs that were like popular songs from the 60s, 70s, 80s. I would just go study, figure out, well, why are they saying this? Why is this melody going this way? Why is this chord going this way? The question was why, because I always had the answer of, if it's why, then I could figure out a why not. So I could figure out a different option. So, it was always about trying to sort of learn from what's being done. And the more that we do, like, for example, Mr. A.R. Rahman, I mean, he was the same thing. He was surrounded by people, right? And so he got the jam, he learned along the way, and he learned the British system in terms of composition stuff. So there's a lot that can be learned about what's being done. Okay. I hope that answers the question in terms of standing out, as just, that would get you better and better. And then I would say collaborate with others. That's the other thing. I mentioned about bands, but collaborate with others in terms of, hey, let's write a song together today. And let's figure out, maybe you're stubborn to work with, but that's okay. That's part of the adaptation of it. Okay. Maybe you like to tie to a certain lyric that I don't like, but let's figure out a way to work together. Okay. So it's very important to collaborate. And so I would also recommend that as a second. Okay. I hope that answers the question, Kartika. And then, yeah, Kevin Logesh, how specific were you able to balance school and college? Great question. With your musical progress, so you could pursue music dreams, but at the same time complete your education. It was tough. I said to myself, there's 24 hours in a day, so I got to bust it at college so that my parents are off my back. But I still want to do what I wanted to do. So I was in bands too. So that was the time dedicated, committed time. But I said to myself, well, if it means that I'll get what I want, I just have to do it. And so luckily I did well in college, but it was a very busy period of my life where I just had to balance both out. and I knew I'd end up okay on the other side once I graduated. So it was just, you know, it just meant that it was more hard work for me, but I just did it anyway, because I didn't look at it as, you know what, it's one or the other. It's like I'm going for it, and nothing should stop me. You know, very selfish way of looking at it, but it sort of helped. Okay, and sometimes in these sort of arts and in these businesses, you sort of have to take that approach of you know, not taking no for an answer, and getting what you want, because that's resilience for you. You know. So I hope that answers that, Kevin. Logesh Vardhan, is full-time music career possible for everyone who's serious? Do you recommend music aspirant to pursue music from high school all the way, or to get normal college degree for a backup? You know, when I used to talk to folks back then, yes, in my mind, I was also thinking backup. Okay. I was thinking back up as well. Now that because I finished it, and it's been many years since I finished it, I do feel that my going to college was helpful. Doing engineering, STEM / you know, whatever that is, you know, helpful, because it helped me organize myself and my life overall. You know, because if I was full artistic without having a slight balance on the other side, I think, knowing my personality, I might have fallen a little more into the ocean and probably not figured out how to swim. And I didn't have enough people in the immediate circle to help me with that either. So having a bright balance helped. And I think what also is helpful is that my organized life becomes a little creative, and my creative life becomes a little organized. So to answer your question, yes. The key is, though, it's time and energy. If they're getting burnt out, that's that risk thing. Okay, if they're getting burnt out at college, and then they got to work, they got a part-time job, and then they got to pursue. You know, for me, I was doing all that because I was, you know, but everyone's different, right? So I think that's a conversation and a thought that has to have a collective answer, a community answer. Yes, is it possible for full-time career possible for everyone who's serious? Absolutely, 100%. And I know the guys who were serious, the girls and guys who were serious, who made it, and the girls and guys who were the dreamers, who wanted the green Ferrari, but they didn't bust it, didn't make it. Okay, so yes, so those who are serious and are extremely committed come out on top. Absolutely. And some have, you know, immediately they start making a living in their early 20s, and then they've gone all the way to make a nice living, and, you know, and very fulfilling, mind you. So yes, it is possible, but it's a lot of determination and hard work, and has to come from within. It's not necessarily there's no exact formula for that one could go, you know, this is the process. And so it's going to be trial and error. It's going to be failures, but I believe that one, you know, their family or whoever it is has to be very supportive of that, but also be realistic. And also realize that there is progress. There is results happening no matter what. But the result is not based on pressure. It's based on the will to go further. And that's the answer right there. I hope that gives you a bit of a summary, Logesh. Yeah. Rupa, okay, so what do you think about how social media has changed the music industry? Yeah, it has, in a good and bad way. Good way because it's helped folks get this music out in different ways to monetize. YouTube monetization with Freedia was significant for us. You know, as a writer of the song, you know, as a co-writer of the song, I won't lie, we made a bunch of money, which is always a good thing. You know, and then, you know, other forms as well through social media when it breaks through. Bad because sometimes it devalues, and it doesn't. It's not honest as to what this person is capable of, really. Okay, and I think we know that. You know, there could be someone with the whole makeup on and all this stuff out there, but in real life, not quite. So I think the reality is different. Okay, so music has that negative thing from social media as well, but on the upside, I advise to take advantage of social media because a fan base always equates to monetization. Okay, so if there is an Instagram or account or whatever that is, or even TikTok, and there is a fan base involved, suddenly that equates to monetization in the music business. Okay, and then people, even the labels, start taking these artists seriously. They go, oh wow, they've got a fan base on their own, which means that if we sign them up, we cut them a deal. You just have to scale their products and scale them as an artist. Okay, so I hope that answers that, Rupa. Rithik, Raj, what role do emotions play in your music? Do you compose based on how you're feeling? Yes, absolutely. For me, there is a lot of ways. One is I could just be jamming or playing a guitar and then composing, writing a melody and then write lyrics. Or I could just be driving and suddenly a thought comes across and I see someone, or I see someone doing something and I get a lyric line. And before you know it, at a traffic intersection, I don't recommend you doing this, but at a lights, I'll just be quickly typing it in, or word typing it in using my phone, just to get that. And while the next, maybe I'm driving over and then further up, and I might get a rhyming line that goes with it, and then I'm thinking of a rhyming line. So yes, but don't do that when you're driving. But my point is, inspiration comes from different thoughts, and obviously emotions play a big role, because one could be down and out, and then a certain type of song comes, and one could be elevated and happy, and then a certain type of song comes, right? So absolutely, it's emotion based, but there are different ways to do it. And in the business, sometimes we just have to, as writers, and there's an artist involved, the discipline is that, hey, we got to write something. At that point, the emotion doesn't play a role, but once the concept is there, the emotion can be almost created, because then you're writing like a book or a movie, right? So you create the emotion, and then if it doesn't feel right, you add more emotion to it by the words and the melody and the performance. Okay, I hope that answers that. Divya Lakshmi Ramdas, for those starting out, getting live performance opportunities can be tough. What are some ways the young musicians can get exposure on stage or in front of an audience? It's tough. It depends on where you are as well. Okay. Good news is if y'all are in Southern California, especially in the LA area, North Hollywood, those sort of valley areas, there's a lot going on. Okay. And so I would suggest getting into those circles. Okay. And also looking at, basically, for example, you can go to a singing vocal teacher, but they might know about a competition thing that's going on, a performance thing that's going on. Okay. I would search local social media, find Facebook groups for certain things, figure out who's doing what. Okay. And yes, definitely get the exposure. I can't stress that enough. Get the stage exposure in front of the audience, and just dive in and do your best, and then do more. Okay. So create opportunities, and LA has a lot. I'll be honest, LA has a lot. It just comes down to figuring out those spots. Okay. How often do you sample music? What are your opinions on sampling? I have no opinion on sampling. It's each to his own. Especially in hip hop, there's a lot of sampling involved, and it's happened since the 90s. Now, how often do you sample? I don't sample because I play a lot of my stuff, and I arrange and I play a lot of my instruments. I don't sample. I get musicians into do stuff, but there is an art in sampling as well, and there is a whole different way of looking at it, because the whole monetization is that whoever you got the sample from, they are also included as writers. Or if you sampled actually an old record, then the record company gets involved, as that's their intellectual property, so you actually have to cut a deal with them. So I understand sampling, the business of it. Each to their own. If they're going to create a cool piece of music and if it's inspired by a sample, go for it. Just make sure you clear the sample. Okay, legally you have to clear it, otherwise there's legal consequences for that. Are there any music editing software programs you recommend for teens? If you got a Mac, start with GarageBand. If you want to go further, you get Ableton. Those are fun stuff. Then there's Cubase, C-U-B-A-S-E, Cubase. That's what I use. Pro Tools, small versions of things like that. So I would say if you got a Mac, start with GarageBand because it's free. It comes with it. Okay. And what are your future plans for music? Are there any contemporary artists you have in mind that you would like to work with? Yes, I would like to work with a few. My future plans, I'm just chugging along, and there's a lot going on. I'm writing a lot of songs, working with a lot of artists. there's a few in mind, but I don't want to jinx myself. So I'll let you all know, hopefully, if I get a chance to work with some of these people. How do you feel about the transition from physical media to streaming? Yeah, it affected the business. Because the value of the art went down. And so at this point where we are is we actually trying to create legislation. So as part of that, like for example, Spotify doesn't pay as much as old records did, physical records did, or cassettes did, or CDs did. So we're actually trying to battle those things in terms of making it fair for the creators and the artists. Okay. Do you feel the ease and little cost involved in discovering music that has changed the way you write music? Do you feel that the ease and little cost involved in? Yes and no, because sometimes, you know, there's too much out there. It's actually it's too much information as well. So in my case, you know, like for example, early 90s hip hop, that actually they do like an old SP1200 or MPC. It actually sampled only 10 seconds, and that's it. So you actually chop your samples up and you create beats. So at that point, your limitations, there was power to your limitations. So and yeah, discovering music is out there, but I feel that sometimes too much noise is not needed as well. Hope that answers that question. Sorry if I didn't. Please let me know if there's any music therapy clubs or career for the teens to relax from. I don't know that one, but I'll get back to you on that one. Okay. Kavin Logesh, are there any tips you can provide on how an aspiring singer can secure a deal with a big record label? Yes. Tips is basically get out there, record more songs, put more songs out, perform live, okay, consistently as much as you can, and increase your social media presence, meaning your fan base. Those are the first 4 steps. And once you do that, hit me up again. I'll tell you what to do after. Okay. But those are the critical steps you got to do. Write great songs as much as you can. Okay. What specific labels would you recommend in music? There's enough for that. So I'm not going to answer that one because that's sort of like a biased question. So I'm not going to answer that. But if you tell me what music you do, then I could tell you what label you would recommend. So Kevin, if you want to get back to me on that or through Ethel or Style, then I could answer that directly a little more. Okay. Logesh, do you offer any internship for aspirants during winter, summers? I'm in Tennessee. I used to do that in LA. Unfortunately, I'm in Tennessee. So if y'all are out here, I'll be more than happy to do it as long as the times match. Yes. What age? What's the age we can start for kids to learn music? For me, it was 5. You know, you don't have to force them. It's more creating the love and being consistent. So at that point, it could be 5, 6. Some people started like 10, 12, and they became virtuosos of music. So because they grew faster and they worked harder. So one could start a little young, but they get burnt out earlier too. But for me, it's about pacing oneself. Okay. And if they have the ear, then help them develop the ear, but make sure it's paced over a long time as opposed to wanting to be all virtuoso and then getting burnt out, which we don't want either. Okay, we want to make sure the love is cultivated. Last question, do you have any numbers? I just have how popular physical media are in 2024. You know what's funny? I know the vinyl sales went up 400% in the last few years. So folks are buying vinyl a lot. So just so you know. But it was actually, vinyl was down and out, right? Then it had a kick because it was like, it's a cool thing to have. Kids of today likes the whole something that's vinyl. So yeah, so I can answer that part, but I don't know the rest of it, unfortunately. So there you go. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I went overtime, major overtime, but I appreciate you guys and thanks for listening to me and being patient.
Thank you so much for the presentation. As an aspiring musician myself, I found this really interesting and helpful. I was very inspired actually to pursue my music career, as I was also debating if I should just put it in the back burner a little bit or pursue it. But now I'd like to hand it over to Ritik Raj for the vote of thanks. Over to you.
All right. As we come to the close of today's remarkable session, I would like to take a moment and express our deepest gratitude to a truly inspiring individual, Mr. Clarence Jey. Mr. Jey, you have not only blessed us with your presence, but also with your incredible story, a story that bridges the worlds of civil and computer engineering, music, and entrepreneurship. Your journey were from a technical field to becoming Grammy writing songwriter and record producer is nothing short of extraordinary. Your experiences remind us all that the pursuit of passion is just as important as the pursuit of skill, and that the paths we choose don't always follow a straight line. Thank you for generously sharing your insights on how young minds can unlock their own creativity and transform it to viable careers. Your advice on the power of embracing one's unique talents and blending them with entrepreneurial spirits is invaluable. It is a message that we resonate with many of us as we go forth and pursue our own dreams. Moreover, we are grateful for the way you emphasize the importance of integrating arts into our lives, not just as a creative outlet, but as the means of holistic personal development. Your belief that creativity fosters personal growth, innovation, and emotional intelligence is a lesson that will guide us in the years to come. Mr. Jey, your words have ignited a fire in us. You've shown us that we can reinvent ourselves, explore new avenues, and make an impact not only in our careers, but in the world. For that, we are sincerely thankful. Lastly, congratulations to all the winners from the summer competition. Thank you to ETL summer competition judges, Mrs. Lavanya, Mr. Saranan, Mr. Logesh, and Mrs. Kalpana. A special thanks to the whole ETL Foundation and Style for bringing this webinar. Thank you.
All right, so that concludes today's program. We hope you found it inspiring and enjoyable. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Thank you all.
You did an incredible job. We should appreciate you for being the moderator and keeping the time. And you did a great job. Congratulations, Dia.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.